All right, game design students, let's learn how to create our own pickup objects. In our world right now, after the last tutorial, we have 5. The cube, the cylinder, the sphere, the doll, and then this mini sphere that we created really quickly. But in this video, I want to show you how to kind of do that with a bit more explanation, as well as to create your own from scratch to make your game much more custom and your own. So your player can technically pick up anything that you make and that can be used as a part of your game logic to make it much more custom and unique. So, first of all, why don't we make an alternate version of one of these other objects? How about this cube? So to start with, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this cube as a baseline object. Add it into my world, maybe move it around, and the thing that I want to do with this cube is I want to change it in some way. Maybe I want this to be, I'm not sure, a stick. Okay, this needs to be placed somewhere, kind of like the simple cane-like stick. I'm going to rename this to be pickup stick to be a little bit more clear. The next thing I need to do to make this more custom is go over and change the item name to stick. And now my cube preview is probably not the right type of thing. What I'm going to need is a brand new image of something that's more like a stick to be able to work with. So what I might do is actually head to Google Chrome somewhere. Let me just pull it up on the side here. And I'm going to go stick cartoon image. And find one that I think looks kind of cool. I'm not going to be too picky about this here. Let's just go with this one. This cartoon stick. Simple. I'm going to save this image. Maybe I'll save it onto my desktop as this cartoon image. And now I got to figure out how to get it into my project. Well, the easiest way to do this is to head into, here's my videos for this tutorial being made, into my downloads folder and find that image that I downloaded. I saved it on my desktop actually. So find that image on my desktop and drag it into my project here. Now I have this image in my project. And now if I click on the stick, I can attach this as the preview. What does that do? Well, that means that when I pick up the stick, this is what's going to show in my inventory as the image that represents it. So let's just kind of take a look and see how this works so far. If I go over to this thing sticking up over here, I actually don't see my ability to interact with it at all. I'm just kind of standing there and I can't interact with it. So what's going on? Well, the main problem here is that I have not yet told my player this is a pick-upable thing. So the first thing I want to check is that I have a tag called collectible. That's already on it because I borrowed the previously created one. But the last thing I need to do is go to my player and take a look at this inventory system script. A lot of this stuff is stuff that we haven't had to worry about yet, but now we're going to have to worry about something called available items. This is what the player knows are items that they're allowed to interact with. And these are prefabs. So what I'm going to do, now pay careful attention, is I'm going to take this pickup stick I made and I'm going to drag it into my prefab section and create an original prefab. This now creates a prefab of a stick that if I go to my player, I can now go down to this plus icon and add a new slot. In it, I don't want another mini sphere. I actually want the pickup stick to be the thing in this slot. This is what allows my player to be able to actually know that that's something it should be allowed to pick up into its inventory. Now if I go over here to the pickup stick, it actually gives me a toggle when I mouse over it, and if I pick it up, look at my inventory, take a look. I have this stick that I placed in there, and if I drop it back out to the world, there it is. I've dropped it on something. And now this is totally usable in the game. Let's test it out really quick. We have this here that's looking for, right now, a cube. What if we had it look for a stick instead? And let's just make sure that this functions properly. I'll go and snag my stick that's standing so beautifully here, and I'll go and drop it on top of this. And bam, it turned on the other thing there. So I've managed to adjust one of the existing items to be able to become a new one. Let's now create one totally from scratch. Let's see how this goes. So let's say that you have a cool visual that you want to have as an item in your game. Or maybe you just want to use something simple and edit it a little bit. Let's make something really basic and brief. What if I create an empty object here? And I don't know, what if I want to make something that looks a little bit like a pickaxe? Something easy for me to kind of generate really quickly on the fly here. Let's just move the center of this empty object down. This is where I'm going to create it here. And inside of it, I'm going to create a cube. I'm going to shrink this thing down. Oh, I'm going to call this the handle. And I'm going to shrink this thing down to be narrow, kind of like the stick at the start. Okay, and maybe it's a little bit too high. Beautiful. And this pickaxe, you're going to make better art than me. I'm sure of it. I'm just going to make this really prototypey and quick. Let's have it look like this. Let's shrink it down a little bit. And you know what? Let's just call this a sledgehammer instead. It's probably better. A sledgehammer. Bam, look at that. It's so wonderful. I'm amazing. So now that you're all but impressed by my art skills, I'll just center this so I'm not quite so embarrassed. Now we have the sledgehammer thing. How do we turn this into a collectible item, a pickup item that is able to actually influence mechanics in our game? Maybe I want to place this on the blacksmith's table to trigger a response of some kind or some other thematic thing in my game. Well, as I said before, the best strategy for figuring out how to get a mechanic to work is to look at something that already works and borrow its settings. So this mini-sphere, we just worked with this. Let's take a look at it and make sure our sledgehammer mimics a lot of these components. Now, don't get wrapped up in the fact that there's multiple things going on here. Close up and hide the individual parts underneath and just focus on the parent, the thing that has all of them inside of it. So I created the sledgehammer and I added the pieces inside, and now they're all packaged away. I just want to make my sledgehammer behave like a pickup item. I need a renderer, that's the visuals. We have those already present. I need some colliders. Now, technically, there's no colliders on this, but they're already present on the subcomponent. See how each is a box collider? That will be enough for what we're doing right now. Then we need a pickup item and a rigid body. So let's have the rigid body first. That's what allows it to actually have physics and have gravity. And now I want to just add my pickup item script. Beautiful. I need an image for this sledgehammer. Let me grab one really quick. Sledgehammer. I don't know who that guy is. Beautiful. Let's snag this. I'm going to save this image on my desktop. And I'm going to open it in the folder here. I'm going to put it into my images file. So we have it in the project here. Perfect. The item preview goes here, like before, connected in place. Didn't take too long. And I'm going to call this the sledgehammer. And the last thing for me to do is to actually tell my player that it's allowed to be aware that there's a sledgehammer. But I don't want to just drag this object. I want this to be a prefab. So this sledgehammer needs to be a prefab. And now the puzzle player can know the sledgehammer exists. Let's just give this a try and see how this goes. See if we've messed anything up along the way. That's my sledgehammer sitting on the ground, and it says press F to pick. And in my inventory, I have the sledgehammer, and if I drop it, it goes back into the world. And of course, I can attach it to trigger other things. But bam, I've created my own custom object, attached it to my game, and you can make as many of these as you want. You can have hundreds if you want to kind of go overboard with things, but unnecessary. You can just make a few of them and make some really cool custom interactive puzzle gameplay with that stuff. I think for this project, that might be sufficient logic to know to work with things. Let's take a quick look at our scripts here. You're going to work with the character I've given you here, so we need to worry about some of these things too much. But yeah, the pick item and the fall warp, we've talked about that, how to adjust the level that you warp to. And wonderful. So with that all said, you now have some basic mechanics of being able to trigger things on and off, as well as pick up and move things around as you see fit. And using those things, I'm sure you can construct a much more elaborate scenario, or maybe even multiple scenarios. You know what? I'm going to make one more video to show you how to create another level connection. Maybe we'll make that the last one in this series. So I'll see you in the next one to learn how to end a puzzle level and move on to the next one. See you then.